Hi, my name is Amar Bates, and I will be interviewing.
Mr. Stanley.
Can you introduce yourself for the new people to the school?
Yep, so my name is Mr. Stanley. I am one of the assistant principals here at Hume-Fogg High School.
Thank you. How has your role as being assistant principal been?
It's been good. It's been crazy. This is my second year, so last year was my first year as an assistant principal. Last year, lots of virtual, lots of hybrid, so this is the first year with all of the students back in the building. But of course, we've got a lot of crazy COVID stuff still going on right now. So still kind of a unique year. Been challenging for sure, but I enjoy it.
That's great. And how has COVID-19 altered you in a way you envision your team as a principal?
Yeah, so obviously when I was going to grad school to become an assistant principal, COVID-19 was not on the radar at all. So none of that training encompassed any of that. So it's been a lot of learning on the go, but it's been true for everybody, for students, for teachers. We're all kind of in this together, and it has had a big impact on how the day-to-day operation runs, but we're pushing through, we're making it happen.
Has this made your job stressful in any way?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, it's not what I thought it was going to look like. We're still trying to make a somewhat normal experience for students and teachers, but there's only so much we can do right now. Obviously, we have masks on right now in the middle of this interview, so yeah.
Do you think you've been successful in making it less stressful for yourself and the students?
We hope so. As an admin team with Dr. Benelli and Dr. Hargis and myself, we're always open to feedback from students and teachers, and so we're always trying to find the best way to make things happen, the most efficient way to make things happen, but obviously the safest way to make things happen, right? So safety is always a primary concern, but trying to give everybody somewhat of a normal high school experience, especially our seniors, because this is their last year, so we're trying to make things happen, but sometimes their hands are tied.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
And I know you've heard about the Devious Lick trend on TikTok.
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So what are your thoughts and opinions about that?
Yeah, so we first learned about it probably 3 weeks ago or so, maybe 4 weeks ago at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, August.
It's really unfortunate. I'm not sure where it started. If there was a famous TikTok person that started it or whatever, but it is unfortunate because it is encouraging people to do criminal activity. I was encouraged that TikTok eventually took down anything that was, tagged with devious licks. I wish they had done a little bit sooner because it was actually criminal. Sometimes you can do things in good fun, but when it actually becomes criminal and property damage and theft, there are real victims in that situation. Especially at a school where sometimes resources are tight. We're blessed in a lot of ways, but it still impacts the school and impacts the district a lot when you're having to constantly replace paper towel dispensers or whatever, right?
Yeah. And does this change your thoughts about the student body of Hume-Fogg?
No, people are people, right? People make bad choices sometimes. Nobody's perfect, and that is fine. Of course, do I wish that they would have made better choices?
Yeah.
Of course I do, right? Because I want them to make good choices for themselves so that they don't find themselves in a bad situation and then they have to deal with consequences that they didn't think they would be dealing with. But do I think differently of our population or less of even the individuals that made some bad choices? No, right? They're still humans and I make mistakes, you make mistakes, everybody makes mistakes. Hopefully we can learn from those mistakes and move forward. And also, hopefully, as a collective community of students and teachers and administrators, we can impact one another to make good choices.
Yeah.
And so I was really encouraged when the student body kind of advocated for themselves and was like, hey, this is not who we are, right? We don't do this. SGA started making posters and signs because everybody loves Mr. Moore, Ernest, who's our head custodian here, and he's the one that's having to clean up a lot of these messes along with the rest of us. And it's just not Hume-Fogg culture, right? And once you start to realize that, some of these maybe new people to the school, freshmen or whoever might have done it, they realize that, it's not cool. It does have impact on very nice people, right? And I didn't intend for it to play out like that. that was encouraging. We were all very, very encouraged to see the students really step up and say that that's not okay.
Yeah, I personally think you've done a great job on handling this situation, because there's only been at least 4 incidents that I've known that's happened in like a 1 or 2 week time span.
Yep.
So since then, I think everything's been okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think it lasted about a week and a half.
Yeah.
Until, if there's been something minor, I haven't heard about it. But I am grateful that we were able to, I say we, the whole community, right? The students and the teachers and SGA and just everybody, student leaders, to be able to kind of squash this so that didn't get out of hand.
Yeah. And I also heard a lot of seniors were also advocating for the termination of this trend in our school.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were a big part of this.
Yeah, which we support, which is great. I mean, Ansley Johns made that announcement on the afternoon announcements talking about this and, don't trash the castle and that whole deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, since this has already been resolved for the most part, do you think so?
I think so. I hope so. You always hear little murmurs here and there, of somebody trying to restart it or reboot it. But hopefully those are just people kind of being silly or whatever, right? And they're learning that the culture, that this is not okay. We're not going to accept this from an administrative stance, for sure, right? Because we have to protect our school and we got to keep it safe and protect our resources for all the students so that we have a safe learning environment. But just as a culture of students as well. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So would you say this is still a top priority or getting down to the lower priority?
If you judge it based off of time spent, like actively using brain power and time to address it, it's becoming a lower priority, right? Because now we're able to not spend our entire day looking at camera footage and doing interviews with students and trying to figure out what happened and who did what and call home and all that fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's still a priority, as meaning we care about it, right? It's not that we don't care about it anymore, because we certainly do, but it's not as much of a time waste as it was before. And it was a huge waste of time, a huge waste of our time, a huge waste of students' time that we were having to call in to do interviews for and all that, investigation. And Mr. Moore's time of cleaning this stuff up, it's frustrating. But hopefully people have learned. And moving on, we can do more productive things with our time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then do you have any words for the people who've committed these crimes?
So, those people we've already communicated with, right, for sure. And they have apologized and they've kind of served their time, if you will, and paid back to the community. But I just hope that no one else is emboldened by these acts to try to take it amongst themselves to have the most devious lick, right? Like moving forward to try to one up.
As a competition.
Right, because that was kind of the whole thing of it, right? That they can see that their actions do have impact on others in the school, right? And just the culture of the whole school as a body of learners. Because I think you would agree, and probably most people at this school agree, we have a lot of freedom to do a lot of things that a lot of students don't have at other schools.
Yeah.
And when we start to abuse those freedoms, then we start to lose those freedoms. And we don't want to do that, right? Nobody wants to be the police over silly stuff like this. But we do want to squash it so that we can make sure we don't cause any further property damage or whatever the case may be. Waste of time. Yeah. So I just hope that it's done. Everybody moves on. We can actually empower one another, right? We can think of productive ways to spend our time and actually build people up rather than destroying property or wasting time.
Yeah. And one last question of the interview. How has your school year been going so far this year? The first 9 weeks?
So far, so good. Yeah, it's been a crazy start to the year. It's been stressful for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. But I think most teachers and administrators feel like we've kind of got over that initial hump of just kind of, getting the airplane up in the air, right, if you will. And now we're kind of at a cruising altitude, and hopefully we can kind of just maintain that momentum as we're coming up into fall break now, right? And everybody can kind of recharge their batteries and come back for quarter 2 to finish out the semester, because we know it's going to get crazy once we get into midterms and all that fun stuff. But yeah, it's gone by quick.
It has.
It has.
It's already September.
I know. Yeah, but it's been good.
Yeah. And that concludes our interview with Mr. Stanley, our assistant principal. And remember, guys, Blue Knights, be kind.